hear anything public. I could see Gordon's messages, but I don't see anything else.
Can you see the chat now? Go to the.
Yeah, but I don't.
You don't see it from the chat box?
Oh, in the tail.
Yeah. Fifth table, chat box. Minutes ago, but then it somehow got erased. So I just put it back on again. So basically, I'm trying to strike it on my own. That's why I do the startup the program. I've been an engineer, but I don't find it as rewarding as trying to do your own thing. So I'm trying to do my own thing right now. And I figured because I've been in the utility business or companies in British Columbia, it's called BC Hydro. Basically, they for the design the actual installation and
Hi everyone, how you doing? Welcome to our October webinar, our October online event. So everybody, welcome. I think people are still joining us. So we will start in a few minutes. But before everything, I will like to thanks all the audience that we have today, all the people that is joining us, that is listening to us. I hope you did a really nice networking. I hope you enjoyed it. Um, this is a really nice platform. This Rema platform is very nice for that. So hello from Vancouver, from Venezuela. Uh, we have people, Estela Vargas. Hey, how are you? Long time. People from Medellin, Newcastle, Vancouver again. Nice. We have people from all over the world, honestly. So that's very nice. This is a global and international event. Uh, well, let me introduce myself. First of all, I am Rafael Carbone. I'm the co-director of Startup Grind Santiago de Chile chapter. And welcome to this seventh. This is our seventh online chapter that we do online because of the COVID-19, of course. So we hope that all of you and all your families are good in this pandemic situation, and we hope we can go back as soon as possible to our live event with present events. So for those that don't know us, Startup Grind is a global community. We are in more than 120 countries, more than 600 cities all over the world. Each city has a chapter, so we are in charge of the Santiago de Chile chapter. And our objectives are to connect, to inspire, and to educate entrepreneurs or everyone that wants to participate or belong to this entrepreneurial ecosystem. So uh, we are very happy to have you here, and very welcome to those that are joining us now. Uh, People from Colombia, from Mexico are watching us. I'm reviewing I'm looking at the list and at the chat. Chile, Dominican Republic, New Elegante. Hey Marcelo, how are you? Nice to have all these people here, Medellin. Well, so we have attendees from different cities, different countries, and I give a special thank to other chapters, startup grind chapters that are joining us today, that we are collaborating and doing great things together to give value to all our community. So we have Startup Grind Guatemala, Startup Grind Mexico, also some cities and chapters in the US like Richmond, Washington DC, and others. So to carry out all these events, we have the support of a big team, volunteers that make this possible. So a big hello to them. They are behind the cameras right now, but everything is possible thanks to them, and also to our partners and sponsors. So a special thank to them. First of all, we have global partners like Google for the startups and Amazon Web Services and the law firm CMS. Also, I would like to say thank to our local sponsors like IBIT, cryptocurrency exchange for all kind of users. Also, Bridge, that is the innovation area of Accenture, and they have their offices in Cover Latam, where is the co-working space where we have done all our previous events in their offices. So thanks to them. They are also our partners, and also we have a WeBoost. WeBoost, they accelerate and scale startups from Latin America to the world. So they are partners with us. They're partnering with us. So special greeting to them. Also, we have two local brands of delicious drinks. One is Kunzman beer. Kunzman is a local beer, and the other is wine brand, which is La Embestida. La Embestida Wines is a new sponsor that we have. And for those that are staying until the end of the event, we will do a raffle and we'll give some bottles of these delicious wines, La Embestida wines. Also, before we go with our speakers, with our guests, all the access to this platform, Remo platform, which is really nice to do this networking, is thanks to Connectal. Connectal is a digital marketing agency, so thanks to Sebastian and all his team. So, as I told you, we have some special guests today, and now I would like to invite Diego Rodriguez. Diego Rodriguez, if you are there, please join me in the stage. Hi, Diego. How are you? Nice to have
Rafael, how are you?
you. All good. What about you?
Good. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks to you to be at this great international event. Diego is the partner of this law firm CMS and also co-head of the technology and venture capital department. So tell us what you do, Diego, and tell us about CMS.
That's great, Rafa. Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation and that kind introduction. And a hi to everyone. I really enjoy the platform. I was able to talk with a lot of people in different tables, so I think it's part of what we should be doing here. So as Rafael mentioned, I work at CMS, which is a big international law firm, and probably all of you are thinking, all of you as entrepreneurs are thinking, okay, big law firm, big legal fees, right? And that's right. But we do have a special program for startups, and that's what I want to talk just like 1 or 2 minutes. We have this program designed for startups. It was designed and implemented in UK 3 years ago, and we launched it in Santiago, in Chile last year. And we actually not only launched it here in Chile, it's also was launched in Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Mexico, and other countries that I see are participating here. So not from Uruguay, sorry. Yeah. So it's a program. Basically, it's we work with startups with a very strong discount on our fees, up to 50%. And the idea is to introduce the startup in the CMS networking. That means invite them to events, present them to our clients, etc. And actually, today we have two companies, two startups that already are working closely with us under the program. And the first company we selected, actually, we met it in one of the events of Startup Grind. So maybe I can meet at the third one. So the invitation is to the ones that are seeking for legal advice and would like to know more about this. I guess that in my profile you will find my email and you can chat me directly. Yeah.
Leave it on the chat if you want.
So yeah, that's it. So thanks again, Rafa, and I hope you enjoy the evening.
Yeah, we will enjoy it. Thanks to you. Thanks for supporting our startups in legal things, and we're very, very happy to have you here. Nice.
You're welcome. Bye.
See you. Okay. So that was Diego. So now we have a few more guests today that will send us a message with different things before we start with the conversation with our speaker today, Nir. So I would like to invite to the stage Carla. If you are there, please show yourself. Sebastian, if you can.
Okay,
Carla,
yeah.
great.
Can you see me now? Yeah, cool.
Sure. Hey, what's up? How are you? How's everything going
How are
there?
you doing?
Are you in Chile, right? Where are you
Where
now?
I'm now, I'm in Santiago, in Chile. Well,
Also, we're not too far.
in the countryside of Santiago,
Countryside.
like
That's nice.
40
Avoiding the city,
Yeah, absolutely.
the pollution and all those things.
Yeah, I'm trying not to go to the city, but I think I'm going there in a couple of weeks.
Nice. So, well, Carla, I will introduce you very quickly. Carla is a tech entrepreneur and founder of different startups. So, tell us more about that. What kind of startups? What do you do? How do you connect with this ecosystem?
Well, yeah, I have been an entrepreneur since like, I don't know, when I was 17 years old. So that I'm
Very young.
no, I'm not going. It's like 20 years ago, something like that. And so I have been having different kind of startups. I know very well the ecosystem here in Chile, but also in United States and in Europe. I had my first exit when I was 21, and now I have startups. Yeah, I have here in Chile. Well, in that time, no one called that exit. It's just a kind of selling of your business.
Yeah, like a selling.
But now
you sold your company.
Yeah, and now I have two startups. Well, one is a scale up, to be honest, is a Spring Up, where we create data science for big corporations here in Chile and in Latin America. We have partners in Argentina, Ecuador, Paraguay, I don't know, Peru, and Chile also. But also I have another startup called Space Robotics, where we are creating robot avatar for space development.
Avatars.
Yeah, it's a kind of...
That sounds like from the NASA.
Yeah, actually we are working with NASA.
Whoa.
Yeah, we have our partners in San Francisco with NASA Ames, and Europe with Made in Spain in Luxembourg. So that is a big project, like a long-term project. And however, that keeps me motivated every day, because it's very exciting to work for the space industry. In the space industry since, I don't know, 2 years ago, but I have another leg on Earth with the Spring Up. I'm not the CEO of this startup. I'm just the founder. I'm in the board of the directors, and also I have a foundation called Rockets for All, where we provide education to underprivileged girls in science, technology, and mathematics, because somehow we would like to close the gaps that we have in Latin America related with gender, education, obviously, and economics, social economics issues. So, yeah, so I'm working in all that things because I would like to create an impact. And we are.
What? Go ahead.
No, we are doing that.
Okay.
I mean, I have an amazing team. So that is why all these things are possible. Now I would like to invite you and all the people that I'm hearing here in this moment to visit us in rocketsforall.com if you would like to help us and support all these little girls that are learning science, technology, and math.
That's nice. Very great to hear that. There's a message from Jenny. All your ventures songs. Yeah, they sound really amazing. So how has been your one question before you go? How has been your experience being a woman in all these projects? Like,
that is a very good question. Probably something that I wanted to talk today, but I don't have enough time. Probably for next time.
but I give you a couple of minutes.
Okay, cool. It has been very difficult because an entrepreneur already has many different issues just to be an entrepreneur. But if we add to that to be a woman, you have more challenges in your career. So it has been very difficult. And if we add to that technology, the industry in technology and in a space area, it has very challenging, very difficult, but we are in that. And I think somehow I already won my space in this industry. And I would like to invite other women. We would like those who would like to be in the technology industry to try and to develop their startups. We need more women in this industry.
Yeah, because one thing is like, it's a startup project to create a startup in a more traditional industry, but you're in a very specific industry with probably, I don't know, different barriers. So that's great to hear that. Mariana is asking, how can we support you, Carla? You mentioned one platform where we can donate, right? Or support.
Yeah, you can donate in rocketsforall.com.
There is, yeah.
Where we
rocketsforall.com,
have a campaign there for your support, where you can donate. But also, if you would like to be a volunteer, like a teacher, or probably something else that you think that you can support us, you can find there our email. So you can just write me an email or contact us by our Instagram or Facebook.
Cool.
It will be awesome.
Cool. So thanks, Carla, for
Thank
being
you.
here. So everyone can go to Rockets for All and support.
Or you can me in my Instagram, Carla Mutoni. You can find me there.
Cool.
Here.
Great, Carla. So we have a good night, Carla.
Hello, buenos dias, buenas
How are you? Buenos días, buenas noches, buenas tardes. Yeah, good Spanish, huh?
No, but it's morning over here in Singapore, so that's why I said buenos dias.
Yes. Buenos dias. What time is there? Like,
it is 7:50 in the morning.
Whoa! So you're starting your day, and here in Chile and Santiago, at least we are ending almost. This is the best part of the day. It's nice to have all of you here with this amazing conversation, with this amazing ending.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you guys so much. This is great.
Yeah. So I think we have before we start with the conversation here, we have another guest, which is Byron. He's co-founder of Habits.ia. So he will talk with us a few minutes. Are you there, Byron? Give us a sign. So, if you can put Byron in the stage before we start with the conversation. Well, I remember you. I have like also two like public announcements. We're receiving all the questions in the tab in the right side of the screen of the platform with the Q&A section. Sorry. So we will in the right side here. We will choose the most voted questions, and they will be answered at the end of the conversation with Nir. So you can go to that section, Q&A, and we will take some questions at the end. So Byron, he's not here. So I can invite Jonathan and Luca from Prosper Point. Where are you guys?
Well, we can check another thing if you would like. We can,
Of course.
I don't know, do something.
Yeah, of course. It's a very, we had, there's Luca.
A little mistake, please. So Carla, thank you a lot for your pitch. Nir, please, just a few minutes because we have to finalize our pitches, and please turn off the camera for 8 minutes and we will call you and you can turn on the camera so we can start, okay?
Okay, Luca, don't worry. Perfect.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Rafael, please call Byron.
I was calling Byron.
Invite Byron to the stage, and it's time for Byron and then for Justin.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want to tell our main speaker, hey, go down. Like
No, well,
Everything is fine, guys.
we can have a conversation with everyone. But I called Byron. There is Byron. How are you? I think you're muted. No, I don't listen to you. You're muted? No.
You're muted now.
Yeah. If you unmute yours, no.
What about now?
There we go.
All right. Yeah, I was listening
Now
to you, but somehow the system, the camera didn't turn off. So I'm here. And good to be here with everyone on this conversation with Nir.
Yeah. So tell us about Habits.ia.
Sure. So look, one of the things that we have found out in many organizations is that most of the employees are not engaged or are not engaged enough to achieve organizational goals. But once you go deeper into the roots of what's happening and why people is not engaged in the organizations, you find out that the most important thing is about their well-being or their state of wellness. So when you think that your state of well-being is not good enough for you, you cannot reach your peak performance into organizations. So when we discovered that, we understand that we need to work in well-being for employees, as the organization will start reaching productivity levels that they have never experienced before. But how do we do this? So we create a model called CARE model, and this is a 4-pillar model which includes the emotional connection. It also includes an active life, eating well, and recharging. And the idea is that once you work with those lifestyle habits in a positive way, you can not only prevent some chronic diseases, but you can also reverse diseases that you might have. What that will cause as an effect is that organizations will start having different productivity levels, as I mentioned, in a way that they have never seen before. So, and once you listen to Nir this tonight, you will see that getting habits into the equation and positive habits is going to help not only individuals, but it's going to help organizations and also industries like insurance industries as well, because you will have an effect on people getting less sick, less ill, and having a preventive way of having healthy employees.
Cool. So, but it doesn't matter. Like you mentioned, you're in the insurance industry. It doesn't matter the industry, right? You're like in any.
Yeah, for sure. It doesn't matter in which industry you are. Actually, a study from Gallup showed that at least 87% of people is not engaged enough, and 95% of leaders worldwide are presenting some symptoms of burnout. So that's the idea. We need to work on engagement, and also people that has been experiencing some type of burnout. Before the pandemic, that was very important. But after the pandemic, it is amazing how people is looking for mental health. And once we use technology and we use artificial intelligence, we can work on a personalized way with each individual, assigning a virtual coach that will guide you to achieve lifestyle habits, positive lifestyle habits, and that will help you and the organization to reach peak performance. That's the way we do it, and we use habits as a way to get the healthy aspect of each individual in the best way possible.
That's great. That's great for to improve the performance of all the organizations. So thanks for being here with us, for your messages. So hope you all the audience follow habits.ia, and we will continue with the next guest, which is Byron. Thank you. See you soon. See you around, and have a good day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now I will leave you with Luca Albertinazzi. He's CEO of Prosper Point, and also he's our director, Startup Grind Santiago Chile director. So please, Luca, join us. Come to the stage. Luca, I'm waiting for you here.
Hello, guys.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm
Startup Grind director. I want to give my partner Justin Fodor a few minutes so we can start. Justin, please join to the stage so you can talk about your startup.
Okay, Justin. There you. Cool. Hi, Justin. How are you? Long time no see.
I'm doing right. What's going on, Luca, Rafael? Thanks for putting this together. Really excited tonight. Are we going to hear about Prosper Points as well?
What?
Are we going to hear about Prosper Points?
Yeah, for sure. After your pitch, we will talk about Prosper Points, and we'll start ASAP because we're very late right now.
Awesome.
So let's do it.
Hey,
cool.
That's great. Everything's going awesome. Really excited tonight. Just a quick background on myself. By the way, I am following the cult that Nir Eyal is leading. Cheers to Nir. I'm a tech entrepreneur 2 times now with Prosper Points and with Focused.io. I'm all about creating solutions to problems that I currently face. So Prosper Points will surface later. I'm currently working on a tech startup by the name of Focused.io. We're essentially building a hook model to help people become indistractable, which we'll learn about, of course, tonight. Won't go super deep into it, but essentially we're looking to optimize notifications all day long. You know, we're sitting at our desk and there's pings, dings, and rings constantly coming across our deck. I heard Rafael was getting hit up on Slack earlier today. Of course, that's a distraction, right? So essentially, there's notifications that are urgent that need attention now, and notifications that do not need attention now. Focused.io will sit on top of all your devices and filter those for you, so that way you only shift your attention for those urgent notifications. This allows you to minimize task switching and multitasking, which is, by the way, not possible. Nir will probably talk about multitasking, his thoughts on that. But anyway, really excited. We're very, very early stages, still in development, so we don't have a functional prototype at this time. We do have a number of organizations here in the US looking to pilot, and we are currently inviting other individuals and organizations for feedback.
You're close to the MVP or the prototype.
We're getting there. Unfortunately, all the devices out there are, I guess, you know, the conglomerates like Microsoft and Apple. They don't want you to control notifications because essentially that's how they make money. So we're finding some technical hurdles. The term pivot will become one of my favorite words here soon enough, I believe. But we'll figure something out, and that's all about. That's what startup is all about.
You're not the only one that has those hustles on the way. So
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, all the best for that.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. What's going on next? Should I hop off?
So now Luca magically appears.
Finally.
Suddenly he goes and comes back here again.
Yes. So I need you guys to put down the cameras. We will start the fireside chat super fast. Thank you everyone for your patience. We know there was a long introduction. We're about to start. Today is a huge, important day for us, for me. I am the Startup Grind director, but I am also the CEO of Prosper Points. Justin is my partner here. and we want to announce that we are launching today. We have the MPV done, and we have different companies happy to launch and pivot with us. And I want to tell you guys what is Prosper Point's about. So we created.
I leave you guys. So enjoy the rest of the night, of the day, of the morning. So remember to do the questions and stay chill. See you later. Bye, guys. Sorry, Luca, continue.
Nice. Bye, Rafa. So yes, how I was talking about, we created a mobile app that rewards employees for the proper smartphone use and social media use during the work times. So the goal here is to improve focusness, improve mental health, improve safety, and improve productivity in big organizations. So we're pretty happy because this is not only a mobile app, but this is also a software as a service that allows the huge companies to decide and use data so they can make decisions for the well-being of the employees in all the organizations in the world. So our main goal is to make people feel free from the tech addiction and all the problems that we're facing today, for all the distraction that we have in front of us all the time. So if you want to reach us, please go to prosperpoints.cl or prosperpoint.cl/colaboradores. We will leave the link, and you also have the links in the advertisement places. And we're happy to receive you if you want to pilot, if you want to know more, if you want to be part of this community. But this is awesome that we have the opportunity to launch at the same time that here in the Start Grind, we're going to receive Nir Eyal, because Nir Eyal is our inspiration. And in Prosper Points, we, Justin Fowler and we created together from scratch like 3 years ago. And we started everything when we started reading the Hook book. So guys, I think that the fact that we are all together here is a privilege. We're going to have one of the biggest speakers in the world. He's very professional. He has a lot of expertise. He's an investor. So let's start off this. And first of all, welcome to Startup Grind, all of you for all over the world. I love you guys. I know that I have some chapter directors here from Canada, from United States, Mexico, Guatemala. We have people from Europe, Middle East. This is a worldwide event. We have people here in Remo, and we have people live streaming in YouTube, local Startup Grind. You are welcome to enjoy this fireside chat. And first, I want to introduce my partner, the interviewer, who is Justin Fowler. Justin Fowler, come over, please. Justin Fowler is a great entrepreneur. He graduated himself from California State University, Chico. He's currently founder and CEO of Focus and founder of Prosper Points and CEO of Prosper Points as well. We're working hard. We're doing things together in order to create free distraction spaces for the people around the world. Now, also, I will invite Nir Eyal. Please, Nir, now you can turn on your camera. I'm so sorry because I made you go out like a few time ago. Please,
no problem.
Nir.
Hi, everybody.
Awesome.
Hello.
I'm so sorry. So, guys, those who doesn't know about Nir Eyal is the best-selling author of Hooks and how to build habit-forming products and Indistractable, how to control your attention and choose your life. These books are amazing. You have to buy those books. For us, as a startup founders, Hook is our Bible. That's the truth, right, Justin? And also, Nir Eyal, if you want, if you have a habit-forming technology, please try to pitch Nir Eyal. This is the moment. He's an investor, angel investor in that field. He's an expert. You have to read about him. You can learn from the fact how to create these habit-forming products, okay? And also you can learn how to protect yourself for these habit-forming products. So this is great. This is a privilege. Thank you a lot, Nir Eyal. Now it's time to talk about and go to the first side chat. So I leave you guys. Please enjoy and let's make things big things together. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Luca. Beautiful. Nir, welcome again.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here from
Oh,
Singapore.
my pleasure. Hey, before we get started, I just got to say, Luca, you have done such an amazing job. You've been involved with this from the very beginning, and you have just bent over backwards to make this happen. I know you put a ton of effort in. I've certainly really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you've been championing my work for all these years. And so just want to say a sincere thank you. Gracias. Very much appreciated.
Can you tell why I want to partner with Luca?
Yeah, he is full of energy, which is awesome. You need that energy to start a company, that's for sure.
A great one.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful. So you're joining us from Singapore. What's going on in Singapore?
Singapore is good. It's a little bit, it's very early morning here. I'm thinking maybe I should close the curtain so it's not quite so bright. But here, maybe that's a little better. You can see me a little bit better here, I hope.
Yeah, it's better for the backlight. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What are you doing there? I mean, do you have family there, or what's the situation?
No, we're just there's a really vibrant startup community out here in Singapore, and we came out here back in March, and we liked it so much that we're going to stick around.
Awesome. That's really cool. So you brought the whole family out there, and especially during 2020, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so far so good.
Awesome. Beautiful. Well, of course, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper, folks. We're going to scrape the surface on both Hooked and Indistractable, but if we want to learn a little bit more about Nir, and I guess, kind of what brought you to this line of work, and we can start with that.
Sure. So I am a behavioral designer. So I help companies design products and services that form healthy habits in people's lives. And so I've started 2 tech companies, the latest of which was in the advertising and gaming industry. This was back in 2007. And I was at Stanford University at the time, and got to see the rise of many of these world-changing companies like Facebook and Google and Twitter and Amazon and Snapchat and Slack. All these companies were getting started and really hitting their stride when I was in the Valley. And many of them were started by my friends. And so I had an inside perspective into how they worked. Many of them actually were my clients as well for my last startup. And when my last company was acquired, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I had this hypothesis that whatever it is that I was going to do next, my next startup, I thought I was going to start a third company. I decided whatever it is that I was going to do next had to incorporate habits. Why? Because I realized that as the interface shrinks, right, as we went from desktops to laptops to mobile devices to wearable devices, and now to auditory devices like the Amazon Alexa, the interface, the visual interface shrank, right? It got smaller and smaller, which means that your opportunity to trigger people is becoming more and more scarce, right? So if you're not on the first page of someone's home screen on their phone, then your app doesn't exist, right? They'll forget about you. If they don't remember to ask for your skill on Amazon Alexa, then your all that work is gone. And so as the interface shrinks, habits become increasingly important. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to build another company, how do I build a habit-forming product? And so I looked for a book on how do I build habit-forming products, and I couldn't find one. Didn't exist. And so I decided I was going to kind of summarize what I was learning for myself. And so I started blogging about it. And then a couple of years into blogging and learning, I got an email from a former professor of mine at Stanford who said, I really like your model. What do you think about teaching a class together? And so that's what we did. So I taught at the Stanford Graduate School of Business for many years. Then I moved over to the Hasso-Plattner Institute of Design, where I taught how to build habit-forming products. And then that eventually became my book, my first book, Hooked, which you said so many kind things about. I really appreciate that. So that book, there it is. So that book has now sold over 300,000 copies. It's used in every conceivable industry. And now there are real case studies. The book came out 6 years ago. And now we see that finally there are companies that are using the Hook model from scratch and getting really big. So one of the companies that comes to mind, there's more companies that have used it than I could ever count. But some of these companies I invest in. So for example, one company that just went public is called Kahoot. And I invested in this company about 5 years ago when the founder called me and said, I just read your book. I love it. I'm going to use the Hook model to help children get hooked to do online learning. And that's what he did. Johan built this company. The company went public at less than $1 billion. Today, it's worth $3.5 billion since they went public. They're killing it. and they use the hook model for good. Companies like Fitbod, which is a case study that's in the second edition of the book, gets people hooked to exercise. So there's all kinds of ways in pretty much every conceivable industry that we can use habits for good. So it's not just about, letting Facebook and the gaming companies get us hooked to frivolity. It's about how do we use the same psychology? How do we steal their secrets from Facebook, from Google, from Amazon? How do we learn what they do so that we can incorporate it into our own businesses so that we can build good habits, healthy habits in people's lives?
Love all that. Wow, lot to unpack there for sure. I think one of the things I admire about you, Nir, and of course many entrepreneurs, is what you just ended with there, is the fact that we can use these superpowers, as you call it, for good. And that's exactly what I'm looking to do here as well as an entrepreneur. Now, of course, you mentioned a little bit of technical jargon, if you might call it, trigger habits and that sort of thing. So I kind of want to give the audience a little bit more context onto what those terms are and how things work. And again, we'll just kind of scrape the surface of Hooked, the 4 stages of the Hook model, and then we'll dive into Indistractable in about 15 minutes or so.
Sure.
One thing, and I'll go ahead and try to share my screen because there are some visuals I'd like to bring in here as well. Let's see if this works here. So people should be able to see that. If that is very small for you, to the audience, go ahead and click the upper right-hand corner of the tile to see a larger screen. I'll also do that. So I want to talk about the habit zone, or I guess what is a habit for to kick things off here. So let's start with that.
Yeah, so a habit is defined as a behavior done with little or no conscious thought. So about half of what you do every single day, day in and day out, is done by one of these habits, these things that we don't really have to think about when we do them. And the beauty of the interactive technology that we all carry around with our pockets these days is that we can use this technology to build good habits in our lives. We can use it to help us learn a new language, just like Duolingo does. They use the Hook model. We can use it to educate our children. We can use it to exercise. We can use it to save money. We can use it to communicate with loved ones. We can use this same model in all sorts of products to improve people's lives. And so one of the most important principles is to understand that frequency is a necessary precondition, that when a product has a product must be used with sufficient frequency to form a habit. So I do quite a bit of angel investing, and the number one reason that I will tell a company I'm going to pass is that they're trying to build a habit, but their product isn't designed to be used with sufficient frequency. And so what's the cutoff point? The cutoff point is about a week's time or less. That if your product is not used within a week's time or less, it is very difficult to change a consumer habit. But if your product is used with sufficient frequency, and if it has enough perceived utility, meaning that it's actually useful to people, right? You can't make people use a product that's not actually useful to them. So this is why I kind of bristle against people saying, oh, you can use these behavioral design tactics to get people addicted and get them, hijack their brain. Well, no, not really, unless they find value in it. You can't make people do something they don't want to do. So the product has to be useful. It has to be good, and it has to be used with sufficient frequency if you ever have a hope of getting into that habit zone. So that's what that conceptual model shows there.
Love that. And I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but you can see on the vertical axis, searching on Google is something that's very easy, and that's why it's easily done with high frequency versus shopping on Amazon is less, like, it's not as easy, but also
it's
high
utility, not ease. You're thinking about a different. This is about utility, not ease.
Right. Perfect. So Amazon being high utility, which is I guess adding value in that regard, which is not so easy or not so high frequency, but high utility within the interaction.
Yeah.
So I guess why is it important, or I guess what aspects is important from a startup perspective, or product leaders looking to design products that are habit forming or sticky, as the term term is used. Why is that important? Obviously, we want active users and lifetime value, but I guess what's the gist of it? Why does that make?
Why is it so important?
Right,
sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I don't know what other slides you have there. I didn't see them, but if there's anything else that you think is useful to share, we can just take. I don't want to confuse people with talking about one model at the same time as another. But the reason that habits are so important is that they are a huge competitive advantage. That when people use a product out of habit, they don't even consider the competition, right? When was the last time that you thought to yourself, I wonder who makes the best search engine? No, you just Google it. You don't even ask yourself, does somebody make a better search engine? You just Google it. It's become a verb now with little or no conscious thought. And so when you can make a product into a habit, it is a huge competitive advantage. Just to be clear here, this isn't magic pixie dust. I'm not saying that every business needs to be habit forming. Some products will never be habit forming, and that's fine, right? If the product is not used with sufficient frequency, like we talked about earlier, if it's insurance, right? Car insurance, you don't use car insurance on a weekly basis. God forbid, right? You should get in an accident every week. But the problem is if you don't have either a habit or some kind of other competitive moat, if you don't have some kind of competitive advantage, then you're constantly competing around price and features. You're beating up the competition based on price and features. And that, of course, drives down margins to zero. Whereas if you have some kind of competitive advantage, whether that's intellectual property, economies of scale, brand, or habit, then you have a moat. Then you have a competitive advantage that others can't come in and just take your competition away. And so that's one reason why habits are so important. So it's not that every business has to be habit forming. It's that every business that needs a habit has to use what's called the hook model.
Love it. So let's great transition into kind of what the hook model is and how organizations, startups, product leaders can implement and create habit-forming products. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick to give them a quick visual on the 4 stages of the hook model, consisting of trigger, action, variable reward, and investment, which we'll get into a little bit deeper, each one individually, starting with trigger. So I guess, first of all, let's define trigger for the audience here and give some examples so that we get an idea of what a trigger is.
Sure, yeah, I'll walk you through the 4 steps of the hook model. So when you look at all of these habit-forming products, when we look at the best in the business, right, between Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Amazon and Google and YouTube, Slack, in the enterprise space as well. I know I talk about consumer products a lot, but in the enterprise space, we see the exact same hook model in Salesforce, in many different GitHub, many different enterprise products use the exact same 4 steps. What we find is that inside the user experience, we find these 4 basic steps repeated again and again and again in all these products I just mentioned. And so we can kind of reverse engineer these products to figure out, well, how can we utilize these same 4 steps in the products we're building to make them more engaging, to make them more habit forming. So every hook starts with a trigger. There are 2 types of triggers. We have external triggers and we have internal triggers. External triggers are things in our outside environment that tell us what to do next. So these are the pings, the dings, anything in your outside environment that gives you some information for what to do next. Click here, buy now, play this, any call to action. Now, we know all about these as product designers. We see them every single day. But what's actually more important than the external triggers are, in fact, the internal triggers. What are internal triggers? Internal triggers are uncomfortable emotional states that we seek to escape from. Loneliness, uncertainty, fear, anxiety, stress, fatigue, anything that doesn't feel good that we look to escape. Now, the goal of a habit-forming product is to attach the use of the product to the internal trigger rather than requiring constant external triggers, right? So the first time, for example, you use Instagram, you might use it because you saw a notification, right? You saw a little, meatball icon on your phone, or you saw some kind of ping or ding. But eventually you start using Instagram not because you see the external trigger, but because you're feeling bored or lonely or FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Now that becomes the trigger. And so the reason this is so powerful is that eventually a habit-forming product doesn't need to spend money on expensive advertising or annoy people with spammy messages because people are triggering themselves. They're using the product on their own. That's when the habit is formed, okay? So it starts with an internal trigger. When we're done, it starts with an external trigger. When we're done, we're going to form an association with an internal trigger. The next step of the hook is the action phase. And the action phase is defined as the simplest behavior done in anticipation of a reward. The simplest behavior done in anticipation of reward. So a quick scroll on Pinterest, a search on Google, pushing the play button on YouTube. These very simple actions done in anticipation of an immediate reward. That's what the action phase is all about. And the easier you can make that behavior, the more likely that action is to occur. The next step is the variable reward, which is where the user gets what they came for. It's where their itch is scratched. And it's not good enough just to give people what they want. We also have to add some kind of mystery, some kind of variability. So in all sorts of products, both online and offline, that engage us, that keep us hooked, you will always find some element of mystery. This is called, of course, a variable reward. So it's some kind of uncertainty. When you think about why people watch the news every day, well, the first 3 letters of news is N-E-W, right? People want to know what's new, right? We don't want to know yesterday's news. We want to know what's new today that we don't know about. Why do we love watching sports, right? Why do we love watching a ball bounce across a field, right? It's because there's uncertainty. We don't know who's going to win. We don't know who's going to score the goal. When we think about slot machines, right? Why do people love to gamble? Well, some people enjoy gambling because there's uncertainty there. It's a game of chance. The same goes with why do we love scrolling our news feeds? Well, because there's uncertainty there. You're not sure what you're going to find with the next scroll. And that scroll uses the exact same psychology as pulling on a slot machine. Now, this isn't necessarily sinister. We don't have to use these techniques only to get people hooked to social media. I don't work with social media companies. I work with companies that are trying to get people hooked to healthy things. So we can use the same exact variability in all sorts of domains to help people form these habits. And then finally, the last step of the hook is the investment phase. And this is where people put something into the product to increase the likelihood of them coming back. Okay, so this is where what we do is called storing value. We add value the more it is used. And this is a really, really big deal because if you think about it, most products, right, in the physical world, my clothing, this table, this coffee cup, everything loses value with wear and tear. Right? Most things in the physical world, the more you use them, the less valuable they become. Most things. Online products, particularly habit-forming products, if they're built correctly, should add value. They should appreciate with use. They should get better and better the more we use them because of this principle of stored value. So when you think about data, content, followers, reputation, all of these things accrue value to the product the more we use them. So for example, the more you use Pinterest or Facebook or any number of other services, the more data you give these companies. They are tailoring the product to you based on your usage. And so this is something we can do with all sorts of products and services. We can build them in such a way that the more the user invests in them, the better they become. So that increases the likelihood of the next pass through the hook and eventually forms that association with the internal trigger so that a habit is ultimately formed.
Wow. Well, I hope everyone was taking notes, or I guess that's even a better call to action to go purchase the book to really get that. I mean, obviously, love all the information, so very rich, and no one's going to be able to really take this. I mean, there's a lot of takeaway, but I think you need the book, is what I'm saying. I'm curious to know. Of course, we talked about a lot of ethics and that sort of thing. You talk about the morality of manipulation and types of founders out there. Can we talk about the 4 types of founders that you define in Hooked?
Sure. Yeah. So I give people so the morality of all this is something I've thought about for years and years. Obviously, I wrote the book back in 2012. I started the book. I published it in 2014. And so, understanding the ethics here is very, very important. This is not a new thing. The Social Dilemma movie is not the first to bring up this topic. I've been writing about it for years. And so I give people a test as product designers. How do you know you're using this stuff for good? How do you know you're not stepping over the line? The first test that I talk about in the book, it is a whole section of the book talking about the morality of manipulation. And so I give a 2-part test. And the 2-part test goes like this. Number 1, you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, is what I'm working on materially improving people's lives? Okay, is what I'm working on materially improving people's lives? Now, that's not something for you to judge other people or other people to judge you. It's just for yourself. Is what you are working on right now materially improving people's lives? Yes or no? But that's not good enough. I want you to ask yourself a second question. And this question is structured so that I want you to break the first rule of drug dealing. Okay, I don't know if people know the first rule of drug dealing. If you do know, I don't want to ask how, but the first rule of drug dealing is never get high on your own supply. But I want you to break that rule by asking yourself this question. So number 1, is what I'm working on materially improving people's lives? Number 2, am I the user? Am I the user? Because if you are the user, if you break the first rule of drug dealing and you use the product, number one, you're in a good moral position. Why? Because if there are any deleterious effects of using this product, you're going to be the first one to know about it. Second, it's a great design practice. That the hardest part about building products for people is knowing what they want, right? That's really hard to get inside people's heads and understand, wait, what do you really want me to build for you? But if you are the user, you have a huge advantage. And so if you can answer into the affirmative of both those things, I am the user of the product, and I believe it's materially improving people's lives, you are what I call a facilitator. This top right quadrant, you are a facilitator. And that's the best place to be from a business standpoint and from an ethical perspective. Now, you can make money answering no to those questions. And there's 3 other categories. People can make money in all those categories. It's not about making money. It's about, can you sleep at night, right? Can you be in a position where you feel like, you know what, my time on earth, my human capital was allocated correctly. So that's a test that you can use for yourself. There's another test, I think, on an ethical level when we're in groups, right? When we're around the table at our companies and people want to do shady tactics, how do we speak up? What kind of test can we use? So we have to understand that, first of all design is manipulation. All design. Graphic design, UX design, interior design. It's all manipulation. Why? Anytime you are changing people's behavior to meet your goals, you are manipulating people. But manipulation is not necessarily a bad thing. Manipulation is a neutral term. There are 2 kinds of manipulation. We have persuasion and we have coercion. Persuasion is getting people to do things they themselves want to do. I want to exercise. Build me an app that helps me get into the habit of exercise. I want to learn a new language. Persuade me to help me learn a new language. Whatever the case might be, if you're using a technology to persuade someone to do something they themselves want to do, awesome. That's ethical. That should be encouraged. We should do more of that. The opposite of persuasion is coercion. Coercion is getting people to do things they don't want to do, things that they later regret doing. So we have to ask ourselves in this corporate context a very simple question. It's called the regret test. The regret test says, would the user do what we have designed for them to do, knowing everything we as the designer know? Let me say that again. The regret test is asking the user, would the user do what we have designed for them to do, knowing everything the designer does? Well, how would we know? Pretty easy. We get people into a room, just like we do for years. We call this usability testing, and we show them the wireframes. We show them the user experience. We test with them, hey, knowing everything that I know that this is going to happen, would you regret doing this? And so that's a very simple test. Now, the beauty of this test is you almost never have to run it. Because if you're in a room with people who want to use shady tactics and you say, hey, you know what, I think we should run a regret test, 9 times out of 10, people will say, oh, you know what, let's just skip it. Let's find a different way to do things. And so it has a chilling effect on unethical behavior. So between those 2, the morality of manipulation matrix and the regret test, I think this is a pretty good place for people to say, yep, these tactics are great. I'm going to use them. I'm going to get more people hooked. I'm going to get more people habituated to using my product and service because I'm using this in an ethical manner.
Wow. Again, super powerful. I want to resurface. I mean, I consider myself a facilitator founder because, as I opened with, I'm looking to create solutions that I currently face, not only because understanding your user is, ever powerful because you are your user, but also I'm curious to know with Kahoots and this brand, obviously that just went public, these aren't 7-year-olds in a room creating software for students. So what was your experience there, and how did that pass the test into the Nir Eyal portfolio of investment?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so the correlate is, it's hard to make blanket rules that are always true. So if you are the user or would have been a user, so if you were in the shoes, in the case of Kahoot, everybody who built the product experienced how much school sucks, right? Like they'd all been in that chair as a student thinking, oh, this is so boring. I want to go home. Why isn't there a better way to learn? And so that's the exception, is if you are the user right now, or you were the user, because now you understand the user's pain, having been the user yourself. Yeah. So like, let's say you're working on a healthcare product. It doesn't mean you actually have to, be that person today. Maybe it's you were that person in the past. And by the way, this isn't always something that you can do. You can't always be the user. I'm saying that if you have the opportunity to be the user, if you have the opportunity to say, okay, what should I work on? Should I work on this project, this startup, or this startup? Choose the one where you are the user or understand the user very well because you were the user in the past.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I don't think 7-year-olds are really great at building software either, so we need those types of individuals around here.
Right, but when they grow up, they get pretty good at it.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think lots of stuff to unpack, and again, I think the individuals from a product leadership and entrepreneurship perspective, you got to get the book. Period. End of story. I think transitioning into your second title, Indistractable: How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life. Essentially, the way I describe it to individuals is this is how to build a habit-forming product. This is how to combat one as an individual. I think this is still super powerful from a business leadership perspective as well. Individuals, growing and scaling companies, because it allows you to truly channel your efforts effectively and efficiently. So I think that's super powerful. So not only valuable for the common individual using Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat, et cetera, but also business leaders today. So how did you embark upon the journey to create Indistractable after writing Hooked? And before we get in there, after learning what you've learned in Hooked, with Indistractable, looking back at Hooked, what would you have changed, or what's new information that you discovered maybe that, hey, I want to kind of alter this theory or this method or this model here? Is there anything there?
Yeah, so I last year I did a second edition of Hooked. So the book had been out for 5 years at that point, and we decided, let's answer this question: what's changed? What's different? And I added some case studies to illuminate, hey, here's some things that have been done with the Hooked model. Here's some other examples. But fundamentally, the 4 basic steps, the research that went into the Hooked model, none of it changed. In fact, it's been proven more true than I even knew when I first wrote the book, as more examples of these companies come out. So there hasn't been any fundamental changes. There are certainly more examples, and that's what I added to the book. People were asking for, okay, can you show me an enterprise example? Can you show me in this industry? Can you show me in that industry? So we added a few more examples, but there hasn't been too much change. One of the questions I get a lot is, does this apply across cultures, across cultural contexts? And it certainly does, because the idea here is that all of us respond to these same psychological tendencies. We all act in accordance with these tendencies, no matter who you are on earth. What changes from one culture to the next, even one person to the next, is how to satisfy that itch. Okay, so people have various preferences in one country, in one culture, or one individual versus another. For example, let's take the internal trigger of boredom. Okay, boredom is something that every human being on the face of the earth has experienced at some point, but how you scratch that itch, how you satisfy boredom, might be completely different. One person might read a book. One person might turn on the television. One person might go play sports, right? We have different ways to scratch that itch. And that's why we need various products to cater to different demographics, to different groups, based on how the product scratches that itch. But the same model holds true. What you plug in for a different reward might change, right? So different apps, different services, different products can scratch that itch differently, but the itch itself and the model, the 4 basic steps, stay exactly the same.
That's huge. It's funny because I wanted to put you on the spot there a little bit, which really you proved that the Hook model and all the writings there are time tested and true. So I think it's hugely powerful, even after learning more information with the writing of Indistractable, that it's just even stronger. It's amazing. So diving in here, I think we got about 10 minutes or so to talk about Indistractable, just to give you a heads up.
Sure.
What was kind of what was like, okay, I've written, you're looking at yourself in the mirror. It's like, okay, I've written Hooked. It's selling great. At what point or how did you start, discovering the need for this new title?
Yeah, so Indistractable. So if Hooked is about how do we build good habits, Indistractable is about how do we break bad habits. And so I found that, for me, the reason I started along this path to write Indistractable, which just came out last year, was that I found I was getting distracted in various areas of my life. I would find that with my daughter, I would play with my daughter, and yet somehow I would be on my phone. I would find that I said I was gonna go exercise, and yet I wouldn't. I would say I was gonna eat right, and I didn't. I would say I was gonna work on that big project at work, and yet somehow 20, 30, 45 minutes later, I was doing something else. And so I wanted to understand, why don't I do what I say I'm going to do? And at first I thought the problem was the technology. Originally I was going to title the book Unhooked, right? I wrote hooked and then unhooked. And so I thought, oh my goodness, did I teach people how to, get addicted to the products, and, now they're not able to control it anymore? And so I got rid of all the technology. I literally, I did one of these digital detoxes that people talk about. I got rid of my phone, and I got a flip phone on Alibaba that has no apps. And then I got myself a word processor, like this keyboard looking thing with no internet connection, thinking, okay, now I'm not going to have any distractions because I got rid of all the recent technology. And you know what happened, Justin? I still got distracted, because I would sit down at my desk and say, okay, no apps, no internet, but, oh, you know what? There's that book I've been meaning to look into. And you know what? My desk is a mess. Let me clean it up. And, oh, the garbage needs to be taken out. Let me just take out the garbage real quick. And I kept getting distracted. And so I said, okay, wait, there's something deeper here. I need to understand, why do we get distracted in the first place? Because here's the thing. Distraction is nothing new. Facebook didn't invent distraction. The iPhone didn't cause distraction for the first time. It's been around for thousands of years. Plato, the Greek philosopher, talked about this 2,500 years ago. And so, yes, these technologies, if you are looking for a distraction, it's easier than ever to find. But the fundamental problem is exactly the same. And so once I started digging into the research around why we get distracted, and over the course of 5 years, I uncovered this amazing research about how to overcome distraction. I wanted everyone to know about it, because it's changed my life in so many ways. I'm 42 years old. I've never been in better physical shape. I exercise when I say I will. I eat better than ever. I have better relationships with my family, with my daughter, with my wife than ever before. And I'm more productive at work than ever before, because I do what I say I'm going to do. And so it kind of frustrated me today that technology gets blamed for all of our social problems. It's rubbish. It's silly. It's not true that we can use this technology to live better lives. We can get the best out of technology without letting it get the best of us, if we know how to become indistractable. And so I wanted to share this research so that all of us can learn how to live better lives by breaking the bad habits that don't serve us, while keeping the good habits that make our lives better.
Wow. Again, awesome stuff. I think it's really important to define what distraction is, because when in my validations for Focused.io, people are like, well, I like distractions. Is it possible to like a distraction?
No. Okay, so this is a great point, Justin. I'm just so glad you brought this up. So it's a really good point. I don't think most people understand what is distraction, right? And they say things like what you just said, of like, well, don't I need distractions once in a while? No. By definition, the best way to understand what a distraction is to understand what a distraction is not, okay? The opposite of distraction, if you say, okay, what's the opposite of distraction? Most people say it's focus, but that's not exactly true. The opposite of distraction is not focus. The opposite of distraction is traction. That if you look at the Latin root of both words, they come from the same root, trahare, which means to pull. And you can see that both words end in the same 6 letters, A-C-T-I-O-N, that spells action. So traction, by definition, is any action that pulls you towards what you said you're going to do, things that you do with intent, things that move you closer to your values and help you become the kind of person you want to become. The opposite of traction is distraction. Distraction is any action that pulls you away from what you plan to do, anything that is not aligned with your values, anything that pulls you further away from becoming the kind of person you want to become. So when people say, oh, I like distraction, they don't actually mean that. What they actually mean is, I like diversion. A diversion is just a recentering of attention. And that's fine. Diversions can be great. Distractions, however, are always bad, because they take you away from what you plan to do. So let's say you want to play video games. You want to go on social media. There's nothing wrong with that stuff, right? Don't listen to these tech critics that tell you, oh, it's hijacking your brain, it's addicting people. Bullshit. Okay? It's rubbish. If you want to go on social media, it's great. There's nothing wrong with it. But do it on your schedule, not the tech companies. So the way we turn distraction into traction is by making time for it. It's putting time in our calendar. On my calendar, I have time for social media. Okay, if you want to play video games, if you want to do it, pray, meditate, take a walk, whatever, paint, whatever it is you want to do, by making time for it in your day, you're turning distraction into traction. So a diversion can, watching TV, reading a book, watching a movie, all those can be diversions of attention, which are perfectly healthy and perfectly wonderful. There's nothing wrong with letting your attention get diverted to something else. That's fine. But don't let it be a distraction. Don't let it pull you away from what you plan to do.
So I guess hacking back external triggers and internal triggers is what's essential there, and I guess taking control of traction and distraction. And I think that's something before we get in there, I definitely want to talk about time management is pain management and that sort of thing. But and how to hack back calendars and schedule those things. By the way, quick side note. Life is so much better when you have your calendar tell you what to do versus when you have notifications tell you what to do. I've disabled all notifications, and life is less stress. I do exactly what I want to be doing. I focus and I finish task to completion instead of jumping back and forth and doing all this. It's amazing. But I want to talk about how to do that in time boxes essentially as well. Did you have something to add there? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
oh, there's so much. We're just scratching the surface of what's in Indistractable, and you showed that Indistractable model that has those 4 parts. I think something that I didn't realize that you touched upon, I think is really, really important to discuss, is that we tend to blame the external triggers. We tend to blame all the pings and dings and rings, but that is not the leading cause of distraction. What my research found over the past 5 years is that all of those external triggers, those are not the leading cause of distraction. The leading cause of distraction are what we call the internal triggers, which we talked about earlier, those uncomfortable emotional states, right? So when I'm lonely, I check Facebook or Instagram. When I'm uncertain, I Google. When I'm bored, I watch YouTube or the news or sports or whatever. You have to understand that time management is pain management. This is probably one of the most important revelations of this book. If you keep blaming the distraction, you're focusing on the wrong place. Okay, of course, external triggers play a part. And I have a whole section in the book about how do we hack back those external triggers. But that's actually relatively easy to do. The more important piece, the more impactful part, is to understand why you got distracted in the first place. Don't just focus on the symptoms. Figure out what's the disease, what's causing you to be in so much emotional discomfort that you can't sit at the dinner table for 5 minutes without checking your phone, right? Why can't you do what you say you're going to do like I didn't? I used to be clinically obese. I would say I wasn't going to work out, and I would say, oh, I got distracted by one thing or another. Really, it was because I didn't want to. I didn't feel like it. So it's all about those sensations. It's all about those internal triggers. That is the most important place. Time management is pain management.
Huge. I think, when you talk about that, honestly, guys, this is great information, but you mentioned how deeply you go in the book, and it just dissects every single portion that we're talking about here. And I definitely want to touch on, I was going to say scratch on, scratching itches over here. Scratch on, or excuse me, I said it again. Touch on the 4 types of, I guess, seeking satisfaction, because with the internal trigger and how we're trying to escape this boredom or our reason for behavior is actually trying to get rid of this need or want to do something and not actually achieve or act on that behavior. Does that make sense? You probably can explain it much better. You know what I'm getting at here? So essentially the reason to move on, to act or behave,
right,
or perform a certain activity, is because we're looking to scratch the itch, not because we want to actually do
right,
that activity. So that, going back to the reward in the hook model, is actually escaping that
right,
craving instead
right.
of actually trying to do that.
Yeah, that all human behavior, most people think that behavior, that motivation is about carrots and sticks, right? It's about the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. And it turns out, what we now know neurologically speaking, that it's all discomfort, that it's all about the desire to escape pain, that everything you do, even wanting to feel good, the wanting, the craving, the desire, the lusting, that itself is psychologically destabilizing. And once we realize that all human motivation is about the desire to escape discomfort on a neurological basis, then we can understand that, wait a minute, all I'm trying to do is escape pain. Well, there's lots of ways to escape pain. I don't have to escape my boredom with checking my phone every 5 minutes. I don't have to, escape anxiety by looking at email all the time. There's other ways to deal with these uncomfortable emotional states that can lead me towards traction, what I want to be doing, rather than distraction. I think part of the problem today is that society, especially the self-help community, unfortunately, tells us that feeling bad is bad. And that's not true, okay? The solution to everything is not be happy all the time, right? How many books tell us that happiness is the most important thing? Don't worry, be happy, right? Like society tells us we're supposed to be happy all the time. What? That's stupid advice. The species did not evolve to be happy, okay? Momentarily, yes, a spike in happiness, sure, but we are not designed, right? Evolution did not create us to be happy and contented and always everything's perfect. No, quite the opposite. It is our disquietude. It is the fact that we are pissed off. It's the fact that we want more. It's the fact that we are not satisfied. This is what gets entrepreneurs to build businesses. This is what gets us to invent, to create, to make things happen, requires discomfort. So as an entrepreneur, you can use that discomfort as rocket fuel to move you forward towards traction, rather than what most people do. As soon as they feel discomfort, as soon as they don't feel good, I got to escape it. I got to drink. I got to turn on the TV. I got to watch football. I got to check Instagram. They can't deal with the discomfort. And so learning how to deal with discomfort is an absolutely important skill on the path to becoming indistractable.
Love that. Awesome. I wanted to show this one figure here talking about life's domains, and I want to again kind of like create a theme here of being indistractable at work. So I want to focus on that moving forward, because we're talking about startups and organizations here. So I'm going to share this figure of life's domains.
I just noticed the time here. I want to make sure we have time for Q&A because I see they're piling up here.
I'm actually distracted by Luca here. So it looks like we have until the top of the hour for I guess to wrap up here, and then we're going to bring an audience Q&A. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Okay.
So like I said, we have until the top of the hour, and then we'll bring on these Q&A. I guess, unless Luca, if you want to show up and cut us off if I'm wrong, what's the plan here?
Yeah, we can.
Go ahead.
We can keep. Why don't we start answering some of these questions, because I see they're piling up, and see where the audience wants to take it, and then we can pepper in questions as they if you have other questions as they come up. How's that?
Beautiful. Awesome. So whoever is going to be managing Q&A, please come to the stage. I believe that was either Luca or Sebastian.
Chat. Okay, and then we have 10 minutes of Q&A. The questions will be the ones to be asked. Okay, Justin, the three first ones will be the ones to be asked to Nir Eyal.
Oh, okay.
Bye.
Sounds good. Sorry, I got confused on the timeline there. Didn't mean to mess us up there.
As did I. Lucas over here calling me. He's like, "No, you're good." So anyway, apologize for the distraction there. Anyway, like I said, I want to talk about life's domains and bring this in really quick, and how people can separate work life and relationships, as well as ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the 3 life domains, and this is a tool that we can use to turn our values into time. Okay. If there's one mantra I want you to remember when it comes to distraction, it's this: is that you cannot call something a distraction unless you know what it distracted you from. Let me say that again. You can't call something a distraction unless you know what it distracted you from. So when people say, "Oh my God, I got so distracted today. Did you see what happened in the news and Facebook and Instagram and my boss and my kids?" And then you say, "Okay, but what did you get distracted from? What was on your calendar?" If you can't show me what you plan to do, you can't say you got distracted. What did you get distracted from? And so this is why it's so important to plan our time, to use what I call time boxing, to make sure that we understand in advance how we want to spend our time. If you think about it, there's a reason that in English we call it paying attention. We pay attention, just like we pay dollars and cents, because our attention has value. And just like you wouldn't stand on a street corner and say, "Hey, here's 10 bucks, here's 20, here's 50. You wouldn't just give out your money. You also wouldn't give out your time, But that's what the vast majority of people do every single day. They just give their time to whoever wants it, whoever taps them on the shoulder, whoever calls them, whoever texts them. They just give their time and attention. So you've got to plan in advance how you want to spend your time and attention. And I'll put here in the chat, give me just 1 second. Many people ask me, how do I get started? How do I start building a time box calendar? And what tools should I use? So I actually built a tool that anyone can use. You don't have to sign up for anything. It's totally free. Let me just make it available here. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I built it for anyone to use so that you can get started on this process of making a time box calendar. Hopefully you can see that in the chat there. And you can use any tool you want. The best tool is the one you use consistently. So if you want to use Google Calendar, if you want to use Microsoft Office, if you want to use pen and paper, great. This is one tool that you can potentially use to get started. So now you're going to see a blank calendar. Okay. Now, how do I fill it in? How do I know what to put on that calendar? And so this is where we start with our values. What are values? Values are attributes of the person you want to become. Let me say that again. Values are attributes of the person you want to become. So when you think about how do I turn my values into time, we start with these 3 life domains, starting with you at the center. You are at the center of these 3 life domains. So you have to ask yourself, how would the person I want to become spend their time investing in themselves? Okay, so whether it's I want to meditate every day, I want to go on a walk every day, I want to take care of my physical health, right? If one of your values is to take care of your body, do you have time for exercise? Do you have a bedtime, right? How many of us as parents, right? I have a 12-year-old little girl that I would for years say, you need to go to bed. You need a bedtime. It's past your bedtime. But did I have a bedtime? No, I was being a hypocrite. Everybody knows how incredibly important it is to get proper rest. How many of us have a bedtime on our calendar? If that's one of your values, to take care of your mental and physical health, you should have a bedtime too. I have a bedtime now. It's very, very important. So, and by the way, you can include fun stuff in there. If one of your values is, I like playing video games, I want that time in my day, great. As we talked about earlier, put that time in your calendar as well. Then the next life domain is the relationship domain. Part of the reason that we have this loneliness epidemic throughout the world now is because people don't keep these appointments with their most important relationships. We give our loved ones, our spouses, whatever time is left over, right? We give our kids whatever scraps there might remain in our day. We have to make time in our schedule for the important people in our life. One of the upsides, if you can call it that, one of the silver linings of this pandemic is that people are scheduling time for these Zoom calls with the important people in their life. And I really hope that continues after the epidemic, not just over Zoom, but also in real life when we can start meeting again. But have that time on your calendar with the important people in your life. And then finally, in the work domain. Now, work, there are 2 kinds of work. We have what we call reactive work, and we have reflective work. Reactive work is, you know what this looks like, right? Reacting to emails, reacting to notifications, reacting to phone calls, reacting to Slack channels. That's reactive work. And most people spend most of their day doing reactive work. It's kind of easy to do because you don't have to think about what you want to do. You just do whatever other people tell you to do. And many people default into that state. The problem is that is not where we do our best work. Our best work is done during reflective work. Reflective work is the strategizing, the planning, the thinking must occur during reflective work time. And you can only do reflective work if you are not interrupted, if you are not distracted. So listen, if you want a huge competitive advantage over everyone else in your industry, okay, everyone else in your workplace, make time in your day, put it on your calendar, make time to think. You know why?
Write it down, people. Write it down.
Yes, because nobody else is doing it. Nobody else is thinking. How many people do you know at your workplace, in your life, who are running like crazy in the wrong direction? Because they're not spending time thinking about where they're going. They're not planning. They're not strategizing. So make sure you have that time in your calendar as well, even if it's 30 minutes, okay? Maybe even 15 minutes. Make time in your day to think, to strategize, to plan ahead for your career, for your personal life. That time is absolutely critical. So this is how we turn our values into time.
Awesome. Awesome. I think it's hugely relevant today because even senior leadership, large companies, we're always there's constant stimulus. We're always getting these notifications. So like think about to the audience here, once obviously Nir sits down and sits and stares at a wall, and I literally do the same thing. When's the last time you sat down and you weren't looking at a screen? You actually sat down and think? It's exactly what Nir is talking about here. It's super important. Give your brain the time to create, to strategize, and have these epiphanies where you're able to say, oh, I should do it this way, and you actually you come out and have much more effective and I guess stronger strategies throughout.
That's right. You gotta have that time, or it's not gonna happen.
It's insane. It's also very difficult because people don't know how to put the phone down and go in the other room, or turn notifications off and and do that. So Nir's got a bunch of tools. You'll find that on his website, nirfar.com, to help enable you to do so. There's one other thing, and I think also super important for business leaders here, companies large and small, to know that being constantly connected is not something that is effective or efficient. Again, so I think one other graphic I want to share here is how to use workplace technology, or how workplace technology drives us crazy. We have about 3 or 4 minutes here before we wrap up for audience Q&A.
Yeah. So this is the cycle of responsiveness that was first proposed by Leslie Perlow at Harvard Business School. And she talks about how this cycle of responsiveness, thinking that we always have to be connected, is literally driving people crazy. That you get to work and you see, your first day on the job and you see, oh my goodness, everybody's always responsive, right? Everybody's always responding to stuff. And so that means that I also need to do that, which reduces my autonomy and control over my own time, which means that now the more messages I send to people, the more messages they send back. And now we've created this company culture that we go round and round and round, thinking everybody needs to be connected all the time. There's some other research that I think is really important to share that was conducted by 2 researchers at Oxford by the name of Stansfield and Candy. And they found that there are 2 conditions of a work environment that literally drive people crazy. Okay, they literally cause, not just associated with, they actually cause depression and anxiety disorder. And those 2 conditions, it's not what kind of work you do, it's the environment you do it in. Those 2 conditions are environments where you have high expectations coupled with low control. Okay, so if you have high expectations and high control, that's fine. But if you have high expectations and low control, this is where you start getting all of these negative psychological consequences like depression and anxiety disorder. And so what we find is that distraction in the workplace, we blame it on the technology. We say, oh, it's these stupid gadgets, it's Slack, it's email, it's phone calls. But really, it's a crappy company culture that perpetuates this cycle. Because if you think about it, what do people do when they feel anxious, when they feel depressed, when they feel out of control? They send more emails. They call more stupid meetings that don't need to be called, for a way to grasp the sense of feeling in control of their lives, right? How many meetings have we gone to, or now on Zoom, or do we attend, that are called solely for the reason of letting the boss hear what they think to themselves, right? Just give me an opportunity to talk out loud so everybody can listen to me, right? How many meetings do we go to that are like that? Why? Because they're desperate to get control over something when they feel like their life or their business is out of control. Again, it's about that recognition of those internal triggers. So in Indistractable, I teach you exactly how to build an indistractable workplace by understanding the deeper drivers of why we waste time during these distractions.
Yeah, and you can get the full guide on how to build an indistractable workplace in the book Indistractable. Again, barely scratching the surface here. There was much more information I wanted to talk about. Of course, out of time at this point. So I want to transition over to Q&A. Thank you so much for that, Nir. Huge value.
Sure, my pleasure.
I'm certain that the audience is loving this. Top voted question, Felipe Ranguis, mi hermano chileno, my Chilean brother. Not surprising that his sophisticated question is at the top of the charts today. How can we apply these habit-forming methodologies with B2b users? Especially considering the buyer and user persona relationship, where the buyer may not be one using it, but making the call to buy. Do you have the question in front of you?
Yeah, I see it right here. This is a great question. So there's a few things that let me unwrap in this question. One is about B2B, enterprise type customers. Does this model apply? How do we use habit-forming methodologies? So the line of demarcation is not enterprise or B2B versus consumer web. That's not when you use or don't use. The line of demarcation is frequent or infrequent. If your enterprise B2B product is not something that is used frequently, you don't need to form a habit, right? Let's say it's enterprise software that you install on some server farm somewhere and nobody uses it unless something terrible happens. You don't need a habit. You sell it once, they buy it, and you move on to the next customer. You don't need a repeat behavior, right? If the product is not used. Now, if you sell the type of enterprise product that requires repeat engagement, for example, if you sell a SaaS product, well, SaaS products require repeat engagement. If people don't use your SaaS product, guess what? They're going to churn. They're going to say, what am I paying for every month here? Who's using this? Anybody using this? No? Let's cancel. So for those type of products, when you think about Slack, when you think about Salesforce, when you think about tons of enterprise products that require repeat engagement, they all use the same exact 4 steps in the hook model. Okay, so I hope that clarifies the first part of the question. The second part of the question around the buyer versus user relationships. Okay, this is a very tricky point because anytime you have a buyer who's not the user, when that's 2 separate people, you have to essentially design your product for not just one user, which is hard enough. You've got to design it for 2 separate users, right? The buyer versus the user, and this oftentimes happens in an enterprise environment. Now, when that happens, you really have no choice. You have to you have to design the product in such a way that it appeals to both audiences. It makes it much harder to do. The good news is that this is becoming less and less a requirement. So let me talk about what I mean here. It used to be if you sold products into a business environment, you had to sell it into the IT department, okay? And then they would buy it, they would approve it, and then they would say, okay, everybody has to use this now. Why? Because we bought it, you have to use it. That is disappearing. The enterprise software market is no longer, by and large, driven from the top down. It's driven from the bottom up. So when you think about Salesforce back in the day, when people started adopting Salesforce, it wasn't bought top down. It was bought bottom up. People started using it. Slack is the same exact story. People started using Slack. They started using it all the time. And then eventually somebody heard about it up in the organization and said, whoa, everybody's using it. Who do we pay? Same thing happened with GitHub. Exact same story with GitHub. People started using it on the ground floor, right? The engineers started using it, and then one day said, "Hey, we're all using this. Well, you know, why don't we get a corporate deal here?" Okay, well now I need to go. Now where do I sign up? So it's much easier to sell to the top of the organization after people in the organization are using your product. Then there's no sales pitch. It's look, 80% of your staff is already using our product. Would you like a discount for a group? Well, of course I would. You're already using it. So if you start from that position of strength, that's a much better place to begin the process than, you know, walking in saying, hello, Mr. or Mrs. CEO, Miss CEO, can you buy my product? It's much better to say, look how many people are already using your product. They've already established habits around it. Let's make a deal for you.
Wow. Luca, I hope you heard that. Prospect Points could use that. Beautiful. Hugely valuable. I think I can also apply that at Focused.io in our go-to-market strategies here. Second question, Byron, thanks for showing up. How is artificial intelligence impacting habit-forming products, or just in general of technologies around habit forming?
Yeah. So I think where artificial intelligence has a lot of, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what the term means. I think it's a particularly scary term for people. When most people say artificial intelligence, what they really mean is maybe machine learning, which is simply a process of writing algorithms that get better over time. And so I think where that fits is in the investment phase of the hook. That what we're seeing is that when you can create mass customization for our customers, so when each person receives a separate version of the product for themselves, that's a big deal. Okay, so if you think about Henry Ford is famous for saying you can have any color of Model T as long as it's black. Why did he say that? Because it was really hard for him to retool his factory so that you could get a blue car and you can get a red car and you can get a yellow car. That was really hard to do back then. So so you can get any color of Model T as long as it's black. But today, we all expect to have our own personalized car, so to speak. So when you use Facebook, your data gives you a personal version of that product. So if you were to log into my Facebook account or my Pinterest account, it wouldn't be that interesting for you because it's all been tailored to my interest based on my data. And so I think that's where machine learning and artificial intelligence will play a role. It will get better and better at predicting what you would like in the future. And that's what we're going to see happening through the hook model, because the more investment you put into a product, the better the rewards become.
So in essence, you're saying machine learning / artificial intelligence almost amplifying the effectiveness of the hook model.
Yeah, I think it'll continue to make products increasingly more sticky, more habit forming, more engaging. For better and for worse, by the way. I think we need to be prepared that if you think the world is distracting now, just wait a few years. It's only going to become more distracting as products get better. And frankly, we want that, right? We want Netflix to make good, interesting movies, right? Are we going to say, hey, Netflix, stop making such good programming. I want to watch it all the time. Hey, Apple, your phones are way too user-friendly. Stop it. No, that's not going to happen. We want these products to get better. That's not a problem. That's progress. And I think it's up to us to understand that that's kind of the price of living in a world with so many cool things in it, is that they are made to engage us. That's no secret. Of course, that's their business models. So we need to recognize that and arm ourselves with these tools to becoming indistractable so that we can use these tools as opposed to them using us.
Awesome. Yeah, Paul Graham, the creator of Y Combinator, I have in my notes here. Unless the forms of technological process that produce these things are subject to different laws than the technological process in general, the world will be more addictive in the next 40 years than it was in the last 40. I think that was a note, or I guess we briefly referenced back there.
Yeah, I quoted him in the book, and I think he's right. I think that we've definitely seen that over the past 20 years. That as things get better, we want to use them more. That's not rocket science. I do think, though, that we have to be aware of a rising trend of this victimization culture. That if I like to use technology a lot, it must be because it is being done to me. And I understand why that's seductive, right? I understand that it's much easier to say, oh, they're addicting me. They're hijacking my brain, because then it's not my fault, right? Then it's being done to me. And look, I understand how companies get people hooked. I wrote the book Hooked. I know all the tricks in their book. I wrote the book. And I can tell you that these techniques are good. They're not that good. Right? This is not mind control. This is persuasion. This is nudging people to make a few things easier in their lives. This isn't mind control. We are much more powerful than the tech companies are. And so until we figure out some kind of matrix style, like plug it into our brain interface, this is a joke, right? Like getting control of Facebook and Instagram and email. Come on. It isn't mind control. It isn't drugs. It isn't heroin. This language that I think is generally used around addiction is really bad, because it leads to what we call learned helplessness. It teaches people, well, don't even try, because the algorithms are hijacking your brain and you're addicted. So why even bother? And so it leads to learned helplessness. We have to understand that we are much more powerful than these technologies and these distractions. And it's really going to be up to us, because they're not going to save us, right? Like the government is not going to stop making products, is going to legislate products to be less engaging, right? It has to be up to us when it comes to this problem of overuse and distraction.
Absolutely. And to get there, people, again, these 2 yellow books, they'll allow you to take control. Third question, and it looks like our final one, maybe you have room for one more.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if Luca wrote this. It is nameless, however. So the question is, Nir, do you invest in startups in Latin America, South America, Central America? How are you?
Yeah, I haven't yet. Not on purpose. I just haven't. I have to admit, Latin America is one place where I haven't done a lot of consulting and speaking. I've had a great reception in Asia. I've been working in Asia now for many years, where I come 2 or 3 times a year. The way I work is companies will typically sponsor me to come out, and I'll give a talk, I'll give a workshop, I'll work with startups. And Asia has been going like crazy. Latin America, I haven't, and I I don't know why. I would love to invest in Latin American companies. I would love to do more speaking and consulting and teaching in Latin America, but it hasn't happened yet. I'm looking forward to it because I think there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of really smart people. Every time I've visited Latin America, I've loved it. So I'm really looking forward to it in the future. So hopefully I'll have more opportunities.
I saw the same. And I actually moved to Chile because I saw a market that was referred to as a blue ocean, or just less competition. And I saw, a market that were well enough established to be receptive to new technologies that are, and processes, et cetera, that are happening here, in North America, for example. Huge untapped market. So I think I'm urging you to check out what's going on in Santiago at the very least. I guess I'll throw a question in there. What's next for you? Are you writing another book? Are you just kind of doing more consulting? What are you working on?
Yeah, so right now I'm focused on spreading this message of how to help people become indistractable. I think it's a really important message of empowerment rather than fear. That we have to teach personal responsibility and personal empowerment rather than tech fear, because I think that we have switched, unfortunately, from an environment of skepticism, right? That's what I encountered when I first came to Silicon Valley in 2006, was skepticism, which is good. I think questioning things, show me evidence. That is a good trait. That's something that I think is a value that I think we should spread around the world. What I think is not healthy, and I think what's happening today, is we've moved from skepticism to cynicism. That now some people have this attitude that there's nothing that these tech companies can do right, that they're all bad, and they get no credit for any of their efforts to fix things, and that I think is dangerous, because then it all becomes about power, and if you have power, you're going to abuse it, you're going to oppress people, and I just don't think that's healthy. And I think more so, it's leading people to question whether they want to be in this industry. And that is to all our detriments. If a high school kid says, should I go into technology, or should I go, I don't know, be a lawyer? And they look at the technology industry and they think, oh, they're all scammers and they're trying to manipulate people. Well, maybe I'm not going to go be in technology. That's a loss to humanity, because I think the way we increase standards of living, the way we improve people's lives, is through technological innovation. So I am super passionate about spreading this message that we can get the best of technology without letting it get the best of us if we know how. So that's my key goal right now. I still do consulting and investing, but right now it's really about continuing to write and educate around becoming indistractable.
Love it. Love it. So it seems like you're taking a bottom-up approach to the societal change versus a top-down, from bottom-up with indistractable approaching the end consumer, versus obviously what you've done with Hooked is like, hey, let's build more, manipulative, responsible technologies. Is that correct? Or
yeah. So I think, so indistractable is for everyone, whereas Hooked is really for product builders.
Right. Interesting stuff. Beautiful. And by the way, there was I guess just to runner-up for that fourth question, how do we compete with distractions when we are building up habits? Read the books. That's the answer to that question. Luca, if you'd like to join us on stage, or whoever, Sebastian, someone, come join us as we close up. I don't know what's next on the agenda here. Obviously, huge thanks to Nir and the whole team there. Obviously, we spent a big chunk of time. Obviously, you're doing very busy stuff over there. So just wanted to thank you on my behalf and the behalf of Startup Grind and the entire audience here. Hugely grateful. Last thing for you. How do people find you on the internet? How do we connect both, product leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, all the way down to the consumer, someone who's looking to be indistractable?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I just typed into the chat my URL. It's nirandfar.com. So Nir is spelled like my first name, N-I-R. So it's nirandfar.com. If you have a question that I didn't get time to answer today, there's a contact form there. Feel free to fill that out, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that we didn't get to. And there's lots of information there. I publish a blog post at least twice a month, so you can see my latest research and writing there. And again, the book is Hooked, is the first book, and the second book is called Indistractable.
Beautiful. Two yellow books, guys. Here they are. You got to get them. Super valuable. Salvador.
Hi, Justin. Hi, Nir. How you doing? How you doing, guys?
Hi, doing very well. And by the way, Justin, thank you so much. I really appreciate the great questions. It was great working with you.
That was a lot of fun. I hope we can continue the conversation otherwise, in other capacities, and hope to work with you, at some point. To be honest.
Absolutely. And thank you also for turning my theory into practice. It means so much to an author when, you can see your work actually being put into real products. So congrats. That's awesome. Thank you.
Also, I wanted to say it's awesome how involved you are in the community. You put a list of a bunch of individuals in the back of both books. I've leveraged both of these lists, to be part of the movement and find individuals on, not only building hit models but also being indistractable. I think that's awesome. Hopefully, I'll be on the list one day.
Fantastic. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk to us, Salvador.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, especially. I want to appreciate your time. I really appreciate Nir for coming and be part of the Startup Grind community here in Santiago. Thank you so much, also Justin, for this great conversation. They're giving us for a great value for our community, and I think all of us we are very grateful of this great conversation. So, cheers, guys.
Thank you so much.
Are we going to be able to network? So, I mean, is there maybe a chance for Nir to show up at one of the tables and talk with the rest of the individuals?
Sure, why not?
If you'd like to go to the floor of Remo, you can click on tables and maybe float around a little bit. Obviously, there's going to be a long line to talk to Nir. I'll be poking around a little bit there. I'm not sure if there's anything else on the agenda to announce here, Salvador, or should we go to networking?
Yeah, we will continue networking after we are closing the fireside chat.
Beautiful. Is that now?
No. Yeah, I have to close the event, and then I will be part of the networking activity.
Awesome. Go ahead.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. First of all, I want to talk about a little bit about one of our partners, because it's a big day for Prosper Point now, because we are the company is launching here a new product, and I'm very proud to present this great startup that I can start it. Giving the opportunity to introduce me in the startup world. So I'm very grateful of the company, and I'm very proud to be this presentation. So I want to talk about Prosper Points. Prosper Points is a mobile software as a service platform that rewards teams for the conscious use of the smartphone while at work, boost productivity, safety, and workplace wellness of your entire staff. Care for a producer, so you have to reach out Luca and give up the mail of Luca on the chat. Some people can reach out and talk about Prosper Point. Give me a second. Nothing. So let's create a more connected, focused, and healthy culture within your enterprise. So thank you, Prosper Point, and good luck, and wish you the best with the launch of this new software as a service. So second of all, hello everyone, community. My name is Salvador Molina, co-director of Startup Grind Santiago. We are ending our 9th chapter of this 2020, this special 2020, and this is special edition. I want to thank Justin in a very special way for this conversation in all different chapters, and we are different parts of the world join us to be part of the community in Santiago for one day. Big greetings to all, and especially for the honor and the pleasure to have Nir for sharing this enormous his huge knowledge with all of us. It was a conversation that I did not contribute. Mark us, and we should remain as one of the greatest chapters of the Baymassive community. So thank you so much for your time and for provide value for our community as always. Also, I want to thank our partners who support us in the realization of each chapter of the Startup Grind. First of all, Singularity U, an American company that offers executive educational programs, a business incubator, and innovation consulting service. As Disal, we invest in startups that apply exponential technologies. Oracle for Startups is the launchpad to integrate and scale with Oracle technology. Connectal, marketing agency that goes beyond and generating leads, has the objective of promoting and closing sales. Global Chile Ventures, Fundación Chile Venture Capital Area, generating investment opportunities in high-content startups, Digital Bank Chile, the most important financial innovation ecosystem in Latin America, RH Management, so supporting best practices in the people management, Eureka Labs, who is the Walmart Chile internal and external innovation ecosystem, QuickX, that is Latin first blockchain-based remittance service, and Torreneira Accelerate believes in the long-term advisory empowerment of entrepreneurs, and La Fábrica Mayor, that entrepreneurship is the entrepreneurship hub of the Universidad Mayor in Santiago, Chile. Well, as we say at the beginning of the webinar, we are now going to announce the winners of the wine bottles, courtesy of the new and greatest sponsor, La Embestida. So one of the attendees of this great webinar, and the winners are two persons. So the first of all, ladies first, as always, María Teresa Bascuñán, and the second one is Francisco Minilla. So congratulations for the prize, guys, and we will communicate internally with you, send you this great gift. So congrats, and you will enjoy it. Finally, as always, I want thanks all attendees who made this great community possible. Cordially invite you then for our webinar for the month of November. Do not miss it, since we'll have a guest directly from Venezuela, Dr. Norma Manchego, in our first virtual workshop, Recognized Coach of Successful Entrepreneurs. We will address how the belief on a perception of the entrepreneur are capable of creating their own reality, influencing their productivity, contribution, and even the result of your projects. So don't miss it, guys. It's going to be a great workshop, and it's going to be a virtual as always. So don't miss it. As always, don't miss every startup kind chapter. Okay. So thank you very much, and we hope you have enjoyed this new chapter of the Startup Grind in Santiago. See you on the tables, and we make continue the networking activities. Okay. See you guys in November. Take care.
Hola, Chris. Hello.
Hello.